Hi. Yeah, my name is Tomasz, and I'm working in SoftServe and also in Cyber. Because right now we are doing some crazy project together. First of all, I have to excuse you because I have to sit down because I had some football injury and I have problem with standing. So sorry. Yeah. So let's go. So the topic of my presentation is what's new in Sitecore 9 for the content authors, for DevOps, and for the developers. And here is the list of here is the list of the new features. I will cover most of them in the presentation, but let me just focus on a few of them right now. There is Speak 3 in Sitecore 9, which is an AngularJS, which is based on AngularJS. This is huge difference comparing to Sitecore 8 and the previous one. So they decided to not use their own technology, but to use AngularJS instead. Of course, the previous version of Speak, like 1.1 to 0, will be still supported, but they told on the symposium that they will end support of the Angular of the Speak 1 and 2 after they will migrate all their application to new version. So this is big step forward, because as we all know, Speak 1 and 2 was rather terrible technology. Yeah. Another news is Commerce 9. So as you all know, Sitecore already has some e-commerce solution. It's based on Commerce Server. It was technology bought from Microsoft in the past, but they also decided to stop this project, and they built completely new one, which is the Commerce 9. It's based on Speak version 3 and microservices. Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to mention on this slide is Sitecore in Azure. So there is a template for virtual machine which you can use in the Azure marketplace, and this will install the Sitecore instance for you on the Azure machine. But this is not fully software as a service, because you still need a license. So this is the same model. Okay, there's one new licensing model which is based on the page views, but it's not full software as a service. You cannot buy it from the Azure marketplace. You have to contact the Sitecore representative to sell you the license. Yeah. But afterwards, you can go to this marketplace and just buy Sitecore instance, which will install in 1 or 2 minutes, I don't know, and you have a Sitecore running. Okay, but let's start the main presentation. So let's start from the Sitecore Forms module. There is a new module for managing forms in Sitecore. In the previous version, there was something called Web Forms for Marketers. Probably most of you use it already. But it was very old technology. It was based on web forms. In the Sitecore 8, it was transferred to MVC, but I think that most of the functionalities were just outdated. So Sitecore decided to again create a completely new product. here you have some GIF. How for the look and feel, how to work with this. This is a drag and drop interface for creating forms. It's much simpler than Web Forms for Marketers, both for content editors and I think for the developers as well, because it generates much simpler item comparing to Web Forms for Marketers. But it also has some limited functionalities comparing to the old ones. So for example, there are only 4 save actions, like save to database, like trigger a goal. There is no save action which send an email, for example, which is, I think, some base functionality. Okay. Yes, this will replace Web Forms for Marketers in the future, because in Sitecore 9 there is still new version of Web Forms for Marketers, and right now those products will run in parallel, and there won't be any migration tools, maybe in the future, but for now they don't plan anything, because this is completely different technologies. Yeah, you can also check my blog. Here there is an address where I actually do this. This is creating a form and integrating with Bootstrap. So it's very easy. I did it without opening Visual Studio, actually, to create this form, to integrate with Bootstrap. So I added the Bootstrap styles, I added Bootstrap validation, and it worked, which is, comparing to Web Forms, it's fantastic. Okay, you can also customize Sitecore forms by, for example, if you want to create your submit action, you just inherit from this type. You create an item which connects this type with the interface, and optionally you can also create a speak application. If you, for example, have action which requires some input, like selecting an item by the content editors or something like that. So yeah, again, I just told you that they introduced Speak 3, but in the new product they still use Speak 2. So the final migration from Speak 2 to Speak 3 will be, I don't know, in 1 or 2 years probably. I don't know. Okay, you can also create custom validation assigned to fields. There are no validation assigned to submit actions anymore. So in Web Forms there was 2 types of submit actions, validation and save actions, but in the new Forms module there is just one. You can also create new custom fields. So again, just you inherit it from a class, you create an item view for this field, and a speak component. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, JSS. This is again something new in Sitecore 9. It's still not in Sitecore 9, but it's available as a preview. So in my opinion, this was the biggest announcement and the biggest news on the Sitecore Symposium. What is the JSS? It's an API for JavaScript developers to develop headless CMS or to develop some mobile application based on Sitecore. So the developers can use React.js, can use Angular to develop the application and to connect to Sitecore with JSON request only. So yeah, how it works, there is a new type of rendering which returns JSON instead of HTML or whatever. this new type of the whole JSS use Sitecore MVC and Node.js both on the server and the client side. So, and also there is Node.js toolkit for building and deploying the application. Yeah, so why this is, in my opinion, the biggest announcement? Yeah, because first of all, if you right now develop on Sitecore, it's quite problematic to build a modern front-end application. So, for example, if you have many front-end components, some dynamic stuff which integrate, which communicate with each other, which takes the data asynchronously. Right now in Sitecore, it's problematic. Yeah, because Sitecore doesn't offer too much to support it. So with JSS, finally, you will have the ability to do it. And the second thing is that for simple website, many digital agencies they create a front end, but they need a software house to develop the backend. To maybe they don't even need some backend because they don't have any complicated functionalities, but they still need the software house which knows the .NET to just integrate with Sitecore, yeah, because there is no other options. You have to write a .NET code. But with JSS, I think many digital agencies, if they want only some simple solution, they won't need the .NET anymore. So I think this is huge. Yeah, so in JSS there is code first and item first approach. What does it mean? Item first, it's basically the same approach which we use right now. So you create items in Sitecore and you grab it from using some rendering. Yeah. So for example, in the JSS you grab it as a JSON, but there is also code first approach. So the developers can create a JSON, some JSON structure, and they can deploy it to Sitecore and create the item structure. So right now the JSS already supports personalization, editing with Experience Editor. It supports the cache rendering cache. Yeah, you can develop it on using any tool which support Node.js, like, I don't know, Visual Studio Code, Brackets, Atom, whatever. There's still not the final version. It will be available in 2018, probably in the first quarter. But yeah, you can play with it. Just check this jss.sitecore.net website. There are samples. There is already some. There are already some scripts which will create a simple website using AngularJS and React. So yeah, I think it will be big in the future. Yeah. In the opposite, there is the huge change in the Sitecore backend. So already in Sitecore 9 there is XConnect. This is a new layer between CMS or any other application and the XDB. Probably you guys will tell more about it, so I won't. Yeah, so just some few informations. XConnect is actually a new website on iOS. So you in the Sitecore 9 you don't have only the Sitecore application, you have also the XConnect application, and you also have 2 additional Windows services. which do some backend operations. It requires Solar, so with version 6.6.1, but in this version there is some bug, so it's better to use 6.6.2. And all the communication in the production environment is using the HTTPS. So even the internal communication between Sitecore and XConnect is over the HTTPS. Yeah, together with this, there is a huge change in XDB itself. So this is no longer on MongoDB only. It can be also on the SQL Server, the Cosmos DB, SQL in the Azure. It cannot, but for the SQL Server, it has to be 2016. It cannot be the 2014 version. CMS databases can be still on 2014. Yeah, and one note: the MongoDB support is not in the Sitecore 9.0. It will be added in the future releases. So for now, there is no Mongo support. Yeah, also there is a new API, XPF. This is new API for the collection models in the XDB, which helps you to get the data, to read and write the data in XDB. So there's one, because in Sitecore 8 there was already something about it. You could create a custom facet for the contacts stored in XDB. So for example, you could extend it to add some specific information, like, I don't know, anything which is not there by default. Yeah, I have two screens from the symposium, from the presentation from Las Vegas. So they also introduced facet on interactions. So this is a new thing comparing to Sitecore 8, and this XPF has some feature to support PII and GDPR. So for example, you can mark your facets with some attribute that this data is sensitive. Yeah. And it has some APIs for the right to be forgotten, for data portability. Yeah, and everything is encrypted. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is something for both DevOps and developers. So in Sitecore 9, there is a new structure of the configuration files. So on the left, you have the root configuration folder. So as you can see, there are more folders right now, some environment and Sitecore. And on the right, you have the default, on the upper right, you have the default appconfig include folder. Sorry, it's not the default will be empty. So this is a huge change, because in the current version, in the appconfig include, there are hundreds of files. I put there only this live mode config. This is just a simple configuration transformation which changed the master and web databases. So there is in the appconfig include, there is an example folder with many examples of the config transformation for different reasons. And where are the default Sitecore configuration files? There are in the appconfig /Sitecore directory. So basically, there is a clear separation between your config patches and the Sitecore configuration. Yeah, and there is a new config file which informs Sitecore in which order those configuration should be loaded. So yeah, this is the default file. So yeah, first there will be Sitecore layer, then the modules layer, then your custom layer, which is appconfig include, and the last one is environment layer. So this is the, if you have the production environment, test environment, and so on, this is the place to put the patches. Okay. There is another another huge change, which is called role-based configuration. So right now, if you want to switch, if you want to switch the server role, so for example, content delivery, content management, processing, reporting, you have to change hundreds of files. Yeah, maybe yes. Some of them you only need to disable or enable, but some of them you have to really modify. So this is really painful. So if there are anyone who installs Sitecore on production environment, so you know what it means. Yeah. So they introduced something called role-based configuration. So you can assign a role to configuration node. So for example, there are two built-in rules. Sorry, one is it should be rule-based configuration, not role-based. Sorry. There is role and search rule. Role is for the server, so content management, content delivery, processing, reporting, and the search is for the Lucene Solar switch. So how it works, in the web config you define which role is this server. So for example, you can mark it as standalone, which is the development environment, the content delivery, content management, processing, reporting. You can also choose which search engine it will use, so Solar or Lucene. You can also create your own rules. And in the config patch, here is marked in red, for the config section, you mark this config section is for the role standalone or content delivery and content management, and this is for the Solar. Yeah, because yeah, this is the Solar Solar index configuration. So you no longer need to disable the files. You just write this, and it works. Yeah, there is also new admin website, show config layers SPX. This is a form where you can select server role, search engine, and it will preview the web config file with this transform you selected on this form. Okay, there are some new features in the Sitecore upgrade. There is something called by them one-step upgrade from Sitecore 8.1 plus to 9. There is updated migration tool for older version. Yeah, and this one-step upgrade will do the breaking changes analysis. So in this upgrade wizard, you will see the report with all the breaking changes, because it will check the source code. It will check your code, and it will check if you use some old APIs which are deprecated, and it will inform you that this is changed, this is deprecated, this is removed. There is also additional migration tool from MongoDB to SQL Server using with the XConnect. Yeah, and with this one-step upgrade, if you upgrade from 8.1 to 9, there is a process which will, oh, you cannot see it. Yeah, it will disable all your custom configuration file. It will do the upgrade, and it will extract all the changes which you done to the standard Sitecore file, and it will create a patch file which will be added to appconfig.include folder, and by default they will be disabled, but you can also enable it in the wizard. So after the migration you can enable those patches back. Yeah, because the whole migration is done on the in some upgrade mode. So it will disable all the patches, do the update, do the upgrade, and then you can either enable them again, the custom one, or leave it. In the future, there will be no migration tool. There will be Speak application inside Sitecore, which will be called Update Center. So the upgrade will be possible from inside the Sitecore. It's still for the future. It's not in Sitecore 9. Okay. Yeah, there is a new funny name in Sitecore world, which is called SIF, Sitecore Installation Framework. Yeah, this is PowerShell-based Sitecore installation script. So in Sitecore 9, you cannot install it using exe file and next, just clicking next. You have to use PowerShell. The first installation is quite painful because there are many prerequisites. So PowerShell, web deploy tool, you have to set up Solar, you have to create your own SSL certificate, you have to install SQL Server 2016 if you don't have it, but you also need some additions for this version to install the databases from the Sitecore package, and you have to modify the JSON file with all the information from where you get this package, so the where you want to install it. But afterwards, if you do everything, I did it in 2 days, so quite long. But afterwards, it's quite easy. You just call one PowerShell script with the path to the JSON file with the configuration. You can also add this configuration in the script parameters, and it will install the Sitecore. It will install XConnect. It will also install the course on Solar with already configured schema file. Okay, there is also new thing about the authentication, federated authentication. So Sitecore 9, this is optional, can use the MVC5 ASP.NET identity instead of the membership. It used some different cookies, it used some different middleware, but using this API you can use some federated authentications. So, for example, Federated Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, or Facebook, or login with Google. Yeah, you can use it to log into Sitecore. It's disabled by default. It uses two different types of users. One is the virtual, and second is persistent. Virtual, it will only create this user session, but it will not store any information in Sitecore. But for example, this shared session is not working in this mode. So if you have some different more than one servers, and the user will connect with different devices to your Sitecore, it will not work with this virtual mode, because they will have different sessions. So there is also this persistent user mode. So in this mode, Sitecore will store some information in the database. Some other news. They show Sitecore Cortex, which is some kind of AI in Sitecore, but they only tell some few words about it without going into details. I don't know, the use case for that is for example, to create automatically target groups for the personalization. Yeah, you just send some criterias to this AI, and it will create the target groups for you, and you can personalize the content for those target groups. There is new marketing automation module, so there is no engagement plan in Silverlight anymore. I think it was the last Silverlight component in Sitecore, so this is gone. Also, it's a new Speak application on the Sitecore Launchpad. It's called marketing automation, and it also works in drag and drop mode. It's very easy for the content authors. Dynamic placeholders are finally out of the box in Sitecore, so you don't need to use the module from Sitecore Marketplace. Also, the device detection is by default in Sitecore, but I read that you need to update your license file to use it. So there is no device detection in App Center in Sitecore anymore. And something for the future. Maybe this is the YouTube movie. Maybe I will open it, or maybe not. Okay, so doesn't work. During the last presentation, they showed something called Project Horizon and Project Zenith. They showed something for the developers and for the content authors. So for the developers, the big change is this JSS. So basically you develop Sitecore using without .NET, using some Node.js tools. You use React, and you can deploy it to Azure, to Heroku, to Amazon Web Services, to some content delivery network, because this is the only static content. And in the future they want to develop Sitecore backend as a .NET Core microservices. So and to deploy it as a Docker containers to Azure. Sounds very nice. And what is funny, they showed everything on the stage using the Mac OS. So probably in the future you won't need the Windows to develop on site. Yeah, and this project Zenith and the project Horizon, this is the completely new Sitecore UI for the content authors and for the marketers. It will integrate in one place the content editing, the preview, the analytics. Yeah, it's hard to describe it without showing you the movie. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so maybe I won't take your time right now.
You're not sure about your history.
Yeah. Okay.
Who is? Just a second.
Okay, I need to switch to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so we'll share this presentation afterwards, yeah, on the page. So,
Sure.
or you can just type in Google Sitecore Zenith and Sitecore Horizon. There is just one movie about it. So this is it looks very nice. I think they plan to introduce it in Sitecore 9.1 or 9.2, because on the stage it was just a PowerPoint presentation or some animations. It wasn't the real product in my opinion, but yeah, it looked very nice. It has some heat maps, some live preview on different devices, something like that. Yeah. Okay, and last but not least, some photos from Las Vegas. Yeah, this is the hotel where when the conference was. Yeah, it looked like that. Yeah, this is the main stage. Yeah, this is the party. A more party. Yeah, and just some gift shop from Las Vegas. Yeah, thank you.
So maybe someone has questions to Tomasz. We've got some gifts from SoftServe. So there are already 2 books about the Sitecore and some other Sitecore swag. So just
I
ask.
have a question. At the beginning you said you are working at crazy project. What did you mean?
You know.
What did you mean by working on the same one?
You know about it.
Okay.
I have a question about this XPF. Do you think that would be available for the lower versions, or just like
No.
it's like the part of the 9.0?
This is the part of 9.
Okay.
I have a question about the layering of config files.
Mm-hmm.
On the slide, when you showed the layers configuration, there was like ability to specify files order, which means I can specify which config comes first. Can I use this also for the inputs, so for my own configuration?
Yes.
Okay, and do I then have to remember about adding every single input file, or will it take the specified first and the other in some order?
I think for your config file, it will also work in alphabetical order. So, for example, you don't need to after I added my file, I didn't need to specify it in this file.
Yeah, but sometimes it might be useful to specify some of the config files, but you don't want to bother with all the config files. So can I specify like 3 out of 50?
Actually, I don't know if it works for the files or only for folders.
Okay.
Maybe it works only for folders. So in your app config include you can have some subfolders, and you can specify the orders for these folders, for the subfolders, which will be the same, I think.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question about the XDB. So you mentioned now we can move back into SQL Server.
Mhm.
So if XConnect is a mandatory layer now, whatever using Azure SQL or SQL Server.
For the Sitecore 9, the XConnect is mandatory. Yeah, you can. Of course, you can still use the content management only mode. So, as it is right now, you can have Sitecore without the XDB. There is a license type for this. Yeah, it's cheaper, and you will have only the content management, the personalization using only the session, not the database. But yeah, if you want the full experience platform, yeah, in the Sitecore 9, you have to use the XDB. Sorry, the XConnect.
Sorry, in terms of the last slide, Sitecore 9.1 or 9.2, basically the future. So the backend based on .NET Core is more like a headless CMS, and the frontend part is based on JSS, will be a layer from which we can communicate with the framework, for example, some sort of content editor or other tools.
Yeah, so if you develop some simple Sitecore solution which only needs access to items and just to present this information from items on some front end, you only need. Yeah, right now you can only create the views which will take the items and just render it. Yeah? So with the JSS, the JSS replaced these views from these .NET views. Yeah, it will use some static HTML. There is a JavaScript API to access the items, to access fields, to grab this data from Sitecore. And if you want, for this future, I think if you want to, for example, create some Sitecore customizations, yes, so some I don't know, some Sitecore patch which will change some pipeline in Sitecore. Yeah. In the future, they want this to be available as a .NET Core microservices. So you just create this microservice, you create some config patch maybe, and just deploy it to your Sitecore instance or somewhere else maybe, and yeah, it will work. It will change your Sitecore instance in some way. Yeah, but this is, this future presentation was really high level stories. Yeah, so I don't know how this will work in the future.
Yeah. They show how authoring might look like, or you just create an item in Sitecore and it just magically connects with this JavaScript application and renders itself?
This connection with JavaScript application is already there in this in the JSS preview. This is very easy. It's right now when you access the items from the .NET code, yeah, you have the item class, yeah, and you just render this class on your view, yeah, and with the JSS you have this information as a JSON file. You just call some address in the Sitecore. Actually, there is in the Sitecore 9.2 or 0.1, there is already JSON services to accessing items.
Like item over API?
Yeah, over API. So you in the JSS you communicate with Sitecore only using this kind of API. There is even something called offline mode in the JSS, where you can download locally the whole Sitecore tree as a JSON file, and you can develop it using your local file. So this JSON is the representation of all the items you have in the you need for develop some feature.
Yeah, that's fine if you have just one item to render, but if you would like to compose a page with different items.
But with this API, you can grab more than one items. You can grab the whole tree, for example, or item and data source related with this item.
Okay.
So if I may add, from what I've seen, you were asking also how this is, or how the author will work. So from what I've seen, he will still work with the experience editor.
Yes.
But it's just the technology behind is different. So the author doesn't see a difference at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still experience editor.
Thanks.
Yeah, because you will still create some HTML, but not CS HTML in the Visual Studio, but different static HTML in some different tool. But you will still deploy it to your Sitecore instance. There will be still a page in Sitecore. So, and there is already the support for the experience editor field editing in the JSS. So from the content author perspective, it looks the same.
Okay.
Yeah, but in this future, everything is different. It's yeah, quite crazy.
Remember about the gifts. One question from my side. Would you recommend to use Sitecore 9 on production? And why not? Just kidding, right? I ask for your opinion.
For now, no. No, it's from my experience, the initial version it's not for the real usage on the production. We had it with Sitecore 8.0 already. I think we shipped the website to the production after the releasing of Sitecore 8.1. Yeah, because I don't know, we had 20 bugs submitted to Sitecore support, maybe more, for the initial version.
So are you aware of any successful migration from, for example, 8.2 to 9.0
No.
by using the automated tool?
No.
That's a very good question. I was going to ask about the same.
No, I think, yeah, as I said, I think this is maybe on the if you develop it's something new which will be deployed to production in 1 year or half year. Yeah, you can start on Sitecore 9. Until this time, there will be Sitecore 9.1 probably. But maybe it's not as bad because I played a little bit with Sitecore 9.0 and so far everything worked there. But yeah, I just did some basic things like these forms, like just creating some page. It works. But I think that there's already a lot of bugs reported for the 9.0.
I guess it's true, but
Yeah.
I don't know the number.
Yeah, but somebody showed the only for the forms module. Somebody on the Slack channel, and only for the forms module there was already 20 bugs reported or something like that. But yeah, maybe there were for this some specific functionalities. Yeah, I didn't find anything which didn't work.
I have one more question. You said that for the device section, the license file needs to be adjusted. Do you know if it's then an additional paid service or if it's just...
I don't know.
As far as I know, it should be included in the let's say default license. But we were trying actually to generate a new one license, but it still looks like the old one. So I don't know if they are really provides right now updated license for Sitecore 9.
But it seems that there is no extra payment.
There should be included in the old price. Well, not exactly the old price. Probably price will be new, but this service will be included.
Yeah.
The license is also necessary for JSS, right?
For the JSS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. About the license, I think there is also a new thing for the SXA. SXA is also included in the basic license right now. You don't.
Really?
Yeah, I think you don't need to pay extra for the SXA.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's not included in the
Site-
Sitecore installation by
Yeah.
default. Yeah, it's just included in the basic license.
But currently it's only included as far as I know when you use the Azure service.
Okay.
So not when you install it on your own.
Okay.
That's what I know.
Well, I was watching the webinar before the presentation about the site command, and they told that SXI will be a part of default license in site command.
Yeah.
They, well, in that time they didn't say anything about the Azure and other stuff, but it was something like default license in site command.
Okay. Can I have a beer?
Yeah. Thank you. So 10-minute break. Get a beer or something. What do you want?
To na finał, że ten film